Hi, my name is Kasper Sogard, and today I'm going to share an easy meal prep recipe with you guys. This is a Scandinavian recipe called Millionbøf in Danish, but it translates to a million steaks in English. This recipe can be only need a very few amount of ingredients that can all be bought in Ralph or in Trader Joe's just for the meat. And we're going to be preparing 8 meals a day that average about 510 calories per meal.
For this recipe, you need 4 pounds or 1,815 grams of 4% fat ground beef, 1 yellow onion, 1 stalk of green onion, and 4.4 pounds of sweet potatoes or 2,000 grams. You will also need some salt, some oil to cook with. I personally prefer coconut oil, optional crushed red chili peppers, some oregano, black pepper, beef bouillon, and lastly browning sauce. The bouillon and browning sauce can normally be found in the baking aisle at your local grocery store.
First step is to prepare the potatoes. I've already cut them a little bit to the ends of all I don't like. The next step is simply just to wash them. Don't need to go too deep, just get all the surface areas a good scrub. Cut the potatoes into smaller pieces, just so it takes a short amount of time to cook. Once you've cut all the potatoes, cover them with water. Just fill in so the potatoes are just about covered. Once you have the potatoes covered in water, you will see they are floating a little bit. That means you put the right amount of water in. After that, you just take some salt and give it some salt. I like to make sure it gets absorbed right by just pushing it down here. Then the only thing remaining now is simply just to boil the potatoes. While those are boiling, we can now start to prepare the meat. Okay, while the potatoes are cooking, we can now get to preparing the meat. We need to open all these meat packages, put into the bowl, and then mix it in with the vegetables. A good trick, because we're going to be mixing this by hand, is to take the ground beef out about an hour before you cook, so that it's not super cold. Really hate these Trader Joe packages. They're always impossible to get open. Okay, put this aside now. Then we can prepare and cut the onions. Okay, clean the onion first and then cut it into small pieces. Here we just need to get this cleaned. There we go. I use about half an onion for this recipe, it should be fine. So the onion is gonna shrink, especially when we cook it. like this. So you don't need to cut into super small pieces, but just get into a decent size like this. The onions, just put it down with the ground beef. So next, we're gonna cut the green onion. Just wash it first, make sure it's clean. We don't need too much of this, just a little bit, just to get some taste. Again, don't worry about cutting it perfectly. There we go. And put it in. So after this, you want to mix it with the spices that you like. So for me, I like it spicy, so I'm going to add a lot of chili in it. And some oregano. As this is beef, put a lot of black pepper in. And finally some salt. Now you got this, remember to wash your hands and then mix it all right. So this process is a lot easier if you let the meat heat up a little bit, so it's not refrigerator temperature once you do this. So next thing is to brown the meat. So first you need to wash your hands. Then we need to prepare a pot over here. So start out heating it up to a high degree. And then once the pot is heating up, then turn the volume down a bit. So you can use any kind of oil you want to use, but I like to use coconut oil in my cooking. Add some oil, let that dissolve. Okay, once your oil has heated up, just lower it from high to a relative medium temperature and start adding your mixed ground beef into this. Want to do a little bit at a time, especially when you make so much, as it's going to be very hard to get browned correctly. You want to brown the meat, simply just let it boil down here and then move it around so you don't burn it while it's browning. So while the meat is browning, you want to kind of chop at it like this. That's because we don't want the meat to kind of like stick together. We want the meat to be in very small pieces. This is where it gets the name A Million Steaks from. So while it's boiling, just keep chopping at it like this to make sure to separate the meat out. If you find any clumps of meat, just hack at them until they become very small pieces. So once most of the meat has a brown color like this, you can go ahead and add the rest of the meat in to get the rest of the meat brown. Like I said, don't be too afraid there's a little bit red meat left. We are going to be boiling it afterwards. We just want to brown it to kind of keep the meat taste inside the meat. So now that most of this meat is browned, we can go ahead and add the rest of the meat in here. And again, we want to be chopping at it so we don't get clumps of meat.
want to keep stirring and chopping until all the meat is browned. As you can see, it should have about this consistency.
Okay, now that the meat is properly brown, we want to prepare the bouillon. So for this recipe, we're going to use 8 tablespoons of bouillon. That's about 32 grams of this brand. So when you mess it up, you just want to fill it with water. Make sure to stir it as well, so that the bouillon is completely dissolved. Once the bouillon is dissolved, just add it to the brown meat. If you want to, at this point, you can actually add some vegetables. That goes very well with this dish. So you can, for example, cut out some carrots, some broccoli, green beans, or something like that, and add in here and boil it with it. So now just let it get up to a boil, and let it boil for a few minutes just to make sure that the meat is completely done. We can now let this boil a bit, so that we completely cook the meal, the meat finished. So leave this now to simmer for a bit. And remember to keep an eye on potatoes so they don't boil over. So a good way to know when the potatoes is done is take a fork and put it in the potato. If when you try to lift it off, the potato falls off the fork, the potato is done. As we want to make mashed potatoes here, we want to overcook it a little bit so it becomes super soft. So all you can see that is just take the fork down and turn it around a little bit. And if that breaks the potato up, it's done. These needs about 2 minutes more. So now that the meat is done boiling, we have to harden the sauce. As it right now is almost liquid, that doesn't work very well with mashed potatoes. So this is mostly just a texture thing that I like to do, so you don't need to do that if you don't like to. But to harden the sauce, just need some flour, a glass, and some water. So add some flour to a glass. Take a fork to mix with, and then just add water to it. It's very important to do this separately. Do not try to just add the flour to the sauce, that won't work. Then you get a really floury kind of feel to it. So make sure to dissolve all of the flour in the water. Once the flour is dissolved, just put it into here. Do a little bit at a time, and then mix it around. Now that the meat has the consistency that we like it to have, it's actually done. But a big part, especially for me in this recipe, is the color of it, because it doesn't look very appetizing, this like brown color. So what you can do is that you can add the browning sauce to it instead. So we just put it in and mix it around. After coloring, the meat is actually 100% done. Just put it aside now to let it cool down so we can put it into the packaging later. So now, in the meantime, the potatoes is done cooking. So we'll remove the water from them and smash them using a potato masher. So now that the meat is done, we can focus on the potatoes. Hopefully they cool down a little bit since they were finished, because else they're going to be very hot to do. So first I need to take the water away from the potatoes. So use a cloth to cover and just pour out the water. If I can figure this out here, there we go. Okay. So once the water is gone, take a potato masher. You can get these for like a few dollars at Ralph, so it's not the most expensive thing. Take it and start mashing away. Now that we're done cooking, the only thing left is to put it into boxes to store it. You can of course use Ziploc bags or any kind of bag you want. I prefer these Elo from Costco. They're very nice and reusable. One trick that I have at least learned from experience is that it doesn't really matter precisely how much you put into these boxes. When I started out, I used to measure every gram of each of these things I put into. But in the long run, it doesn't actually matter. So if you make 8 meals, if you have 10 or 20 grams too much of, let's say, the meat in one box, that's going to mean that the other box is going to have, one other box is going to have 10 or 20 grams less, or 5 grams spread out throughout many of the other boxes. And your body's not going to know the difference, but it saves a lot of time in prepping. So the only thing left to do now is simply just to put it into the boxes and just use eye measurement to see if we get it right. And we're done.
The caloric breakdown for each meal is 506 calories, 55 grams of carbohydrates, 8 grams of fat, 46 grams of protein. The macro breakdown is 43% carbohydrates, 15% fats, and 42% protein. I hope you enjoyed this easy meal prep video. This is my first video on YouTube, so thank you for watching this far. I would appreciate it if you could hit that like button or subscribe.